everybody. Welcome back. Another edition live at Drew's house, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Hope everybody is doing well out there, enjoying September as we, summer kind of went away. The change in the air, I don't know. It's weird, but summer's like 6 weeks around here, it seems like. I'm a summer boy. I miss it already, but I like the fall too. Hope you're all getting off to a good start with that. With that, it means it is that time of year. The Newburyport Documentary Film Fest. Here it is the program. It's fresh because guess what? It is coming up quickly. We're joined here by James Sullivan, the program director, longtime friend of the show. Hey, James, how are you?
Good. How are you, Drew?
Good. You excited?
We are. We're very well. We can do it in person for the first time in 3 years now.
I know. Do not take that for granted.
Exactly.
Right?
No, not at all. We're very, very excited to have hopefully full theaters through the weekend in the middle of September. Once again,
it's going to be great. I mean, is there literally a part of you that I kind of forgot what it feels like to have people walking into these?
Yes and no. Last year we were able to do a few live events, but mostly virtual. And then since then, we do periodic screenings. We had a screening of a film called Cat Daddies, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a film about dudes who love their cats.
Is that right? Yeah.
Which was a sellout at the screening room a few months ago. So we've experienced it, but sort of in dribs and drabs. We haven't had a full festival weekend in person, obviously, since before the pandemic.
Yeah. Man, Cat Daddies, that's funny. It's a clever title.
It was funny, actually. Yeah, it was good. It was cute.
You like that one, did you?
Yeah.
It's great. But I will give you guys props, though. There are certain organizations that, that jump out to you that, they really kept it going through tough times in the pandemic. And that's exactly what you guys did. I mean, this thing hasn't stopped over the last couple of years. You just found different ways, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a weird silver lining for the arts in terms of the pandemic. Everybody had to learn how to do everything virtually. Right. So in 2020, we did the entire thing virtually. And then last year we were like, well, now we know how to do it. So we'll just do it virtually mostly again. And so this year, all the films are being screened live, obviously, at the screening room or the Firehouse. But then once the festival ends on Sunday night, you can stream almost all of the films, with a couple of exceptions, through the following week if you want to just unlock them online and watch them virtually at home like it was still the pandemic. So if you can't make it, if you're going to be away that weekend, if you can't make it, or if you come to a couple films and then want to see more, you can do it the following week. So it's it's kind of a hybrid situation that we learned by the seat of our pants during the pandemic.
Do you guys? It's stressful, I know, but do you like that kind of new challenge putting on this show? I mean, I know a lot of people who it's an adrenaline thing, right? Let's figure out how to do this and put on the best show.
Yeah, absolutely. It was exactly that. I mean, it was panicky and but in all the good, in all the best ways. We still wanted to do it. And, we weren't the only ones. Certainly, every other film festival in the country had to figure out how to do the same thing. And, there were in the early days, there were different platforms. Which one should we use? How are we going to present the films? How are people going to find them and unlock them? And then it kind of shook out where kind of all the film festivals realized, okay, there's one platform. It's called Eventive. Yeah. They turned out to be the best one, just like Zoom turned out to be the way that everybody connected with video online. So, we figured it out, and so did everybody else.
Yeah, I had to figure out Zoom.
Right?
No, I did.
Exactly.
I will say, see, you guys are different because you've actually, and I think many industries have found ways that they're going to, we'll keep some of that and we're going to put it into our real life thing. There is one aspect, I love seeing live music. I love that people went and played on Zoom and everything, but I never really need to see another person play.
I agree. I see a lot of live music myself. I write for the Globe about the arts, including a lot of live music, and I streamed as many things as I could, mostly to support the artists. Yep. It's a nice to have, but I agree. I would 1,000% prefer to be in the room with the music being made live. Yeah,
something very special about that. I know you do the freelancing for the Globe, and a lot of newsrooms ended up sending everybody home anyway, and you were kind of bouncing around and doing. You can work from home anyway, but I wonder, do you get a feel for newspaper life there in a pandemic, that kind of newsroom? Or?
Well, it's because I'm freelance. I was not really in the office as much as anybody else. Very rarely.
Everybody had to learn what you were doing, though,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. I've been doing it for almost 20 years in this role. So I mean. mean, and I have editors who still are working from home. And the Globe also, everybody knows this, downsized from the Morrissey Boulevard location to downtown. So they were already sort of headed towards, okay, well, we're going to allow a little, if not a lot more, work from home.
Yeah.
So we were kind of headed in that direction anyway. And as a freelancer, that's kind of the life that I had carved out for myself a long time ago, and sort of knock wood, it's been pretty great because I do other kinds of freelancing. I've written several books. I do the film festival. I do a lot of stuff, but the Globe has kept me very busy for a long time, and I really appreciate it. And I love the stuff that I do for them. That
is cool. Just I wanted to touch on that just a little bit. Newburyport Documentary Film Festival. It always amazes me, like every year, the amount of like amazing stuff you guys get. I mean, it's incredible. Like from all over. You know, and you get a little snapshot of this year. Like, what's the? I know you can't get too specific. But, what can we expect?
Well, what we can expect, I think, is maybe our best year ever in terms of quality of the films. We've been very proud to show everything that we've shown. This is our 18th year, so we've been doing this for a long time. But the quality it just feels like it's getting better and better each year of submissions. And so we open to submissions in the springtime, in the early spring, and typically we get quite a number of submissions, roughly the same every year, and then we end up choosing 25, 28 or so films, which is kind of a combination of feature-length films and short films.
Yep. It's a hard gig. We've talked about that before.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to go through, obviously, and it's a tough decision in a lot of cases. Sometimes we have to decline to invite a film that some of us really liked, but it's a process, and we have several folks who get together and watch everything that would get submitted. And then we also go out, and I, as the program director, kind of lead this. We also go out and solicit a couple of films that we've seen pop up at other festivals that intrigue us or that we would love to bring to Newburyport, and we have 3 or 4 of those this year that we went out and solicited. But the majority, as usual, are submissions, and again, the caliber, we couldn't be prouder of what we're bringing. So you want me to give you a little bit of a taste of what we got?
Yeah, hold that thought for 1 second, though, because I do wonder, when you talk about quality of these films, because I imagine that has to do, talented people, but we've always had talented people. A lot of that technology, too. I mean, we're talking about better cameras, better sound, better editing. Better editing,
all of that. I mean, obviously, one of the beauties of documentary filmmaking is that it's a very much of a democratic art form, and that, a one-person show can do it on their own if they want to learn the editing software and shoot everything themselves. Some of the films that we get, are full production teams, and some are sort of like more of a one-person show. The range of quality. What happens a lot is that filmmaker comes up with a great idea, and we're excited to see the topic, and then maybe just the way I always, it's a really hard thing to describe because there's so many elements that go into it, but the way I always explain it is that if I really like a film, I'll say I felt like I was in good hands. Like they took a good topic and then presented it in a way that kept you engaged for the full hour and a half or however long the film lasted.
Gotcha.
And, some filmmakers kind of, play with the editing techniques or don't know them all that well, or, there's lots of reasons why you might feel like you're in less than good hands. But let's focus on the ones that are good, because those are the ones that we obviously are the ones we hope we're inviting to the festival.
That's well said. I get that. Okay. Very good. Give us that taste now. So what are you thinking?
Well, so we, loads of stuff, lots of environmental films. As usual, our short, we've got a couple really cool environmental films. One about a Far East destination that's kind of a tourist destination that's being illegally logged, and there are locals who are sort of engaging in guerrilla activity to try to stop the loggers. So it's this thing about saving our homeland. That one's called Delicato. That's an impressive film. We have another one about the new science behind how to fight wildfires, which is obviously a major topic for not just for the West End. I mean, there's a fire still burning in Rockport.
I don't know about that one. I know the Lynn Woods one.
That's
where I was.
Right. So and that film is called Elemental. So there's several films that are on the environmental side of things. We have our opening night film is this is going to sound weird, but it's a fun film about a guy who has decided to end his life. It's called Jack Has a Plan, and it's about this quirky San Francisco dude who's been living for years with an incurable brain tumor. And he gets to his middle age, and he kind of just says to his friends and his wife, you know what? I'm done. Like, I don't want to live like this anymore. So I want to undergo assisted suicide. I want to, pull the plug, basically. Yeah. And he says, I'm going to go out with a big party. And his friends and loved ones are all saying, that's crazy. We're going to miss you. We don't want you to go. What about us?
Yeah.
And he says, nope, I'm doing it. I made up my mind. And so he has a buddy of his follow him through this process. And it's kind of like a life story about this guy, Jack, who's this fun-loving party guy who's funny, going through this process and then having doubts while he's going through it. So it's actually weirdly a very entertaining film about a guy who's pulling the plug on his own life.
Wow, that's fascinating.
That's our opening night film. On Saturday night, so we tend to showcase certain films on Friday night, Saturday night, and at the end of the festival on Sunday night. So I'll focus on those for a second. Saturday night is a very provocative film called Deconstructing Karen, and that is about two women who have been conducting little dinner parties for white ladies who, most of whom say at the outset, I'm not racist. I'm not racist at all. And then they have this, these are two women of color, and they have these pleasant but firm discussions with them and kind of draw them out and get them to realize, well, what are you actually actively doing to stop racism? So this film focuses on one of those dinners, and it's intense and very thought-provoking, and also a little bit light at times, so that it's not just
enough light.
Yeah, exactly, right. And then Sunday night we have a very local film called The House We Lived In, which is made by a guy a filmmaker who moved to Amesbury recently, so he's super local. His name's Tim O'Donnell. His father suffered a traumatic brain injury and has been living with that for the last several years, and the film is about sort of losing the father that they knew and the whole family having to adapt to this new person who doesn't really have memories of his old self and how the family deals with that. So that's a pretty intense, and again, not just all sort of doom and gloom, just a really well-made story that is deeply engaging and very local.
Gotcha. I mean, that's the thing about these, right? They're all real life. I mean, that's why people love these. Have you noticed like this wave? I don't know if we talked about this before. I try to figure out if it's because I'm in my mid-30s now and I've just gotten older, and like this is the time that you get into. Maybe I wasn't as into this in my 20s, but now in my 30s, like I really like documentaries.
No, my kids are sort of young adults, young men, boys. I still think of them as boys, but they're young men.
Just sent one off to college.
18 is the youngest one. Yeah. And they watch quite a bit of documentaries. Which, I mean, when I started volunteering for the festival, I always, felt like we were sort of struggling with an uphill battle that people in my day anyway, used to think of like, oh, documentaries, they're like, you got to eat your broccoli or whatever, right? Like they're good for you. So, that's not fun, right?
Yeah.
I don't think people think that way anymore. No. I mean, part of that is the Netflix phenomenon that there's all these crazy, like sort of true crime or wacky Tiger King or, these documentaries that are about insane stories that you're like, oh, you can't make anything up crazier than that, right? I think that's drawn a lot of people in, but I think of documentaries as they can be about anything under the sun, and to me they're another form of, I'm a journalist and an author, and they are a different form of journalism, obviously, and they can be from everything to political stuff, environmental stuff, social issues, to weird stories about one person's life, or cat daddies about dudes who love their cats. So it runs the gamut of the human experience basically, and we see it all at our festival. Yeah,
and I mean, you're right. The Netflix thing I think is a part of it, because you can literally find. I know in my house, one of the things for a while, my wife tried being a vegan for a while. She yells at me when I say that, because she's like, I'm probably more vegetarian. She's hard on herself. But it's like some of those documentaries. Like I got to tell you, like I watched one. I knew the name for a while and it's escaping me, but I remember it was like the one she introduced me to, and it got me so much. that, and I'm an animal lover anyway.
Yeah.
But the thing, it just hit me so much. And I swear I haven't had a steak. I dropped cheesesteaks like that were my they were my go-to.
Yeah.
I was never like a big steak guy at dinner anyway. But like cheesesteaks, I love the good cheesesteak.
Sure.
I haven't done one in 2 years just because of this documentary. And I was like, that's horrible. Like what can? And one of the guys came on and said, if you just do chicken, like you'd help the environment by this much. And I'm like, well, anybody can do that, right? So you try to like maybe slowly make yourself better. But that was like an unbelievably moving documentary. And she was like, well, then we'll watch this one,
Right.
So during the pandemic,
that's the sort of the AI, right? Like the recommending features. You know, like, oh, well, you watch this, you like this, you made it to the end of this, we know you did, 'cause we can tell.
Exactly.
So here's let us recommend. It's like Amazon and
It's
Netflix,
so
running your life, your cultural life. But anyway,
and that sounds boring, right? But some of them are just so good. I
Yeah.
mean, they're just so well. I don't know. I know I digressed a little bit, but that was what was going on in my house early in the pandemic.
Doing. That's the idea. We're trying to present more of them. And the thing about film festivals is that you're seeing stuff that, almost without exception, you can't see yet online. You can't stream it yet, but you will be able to in a few months or 6 months or so. It's like it's a sneak peek. It's like getting to see a film beforehand. That's key.
There's still a rush about that too. Even for even the casual moviegoer.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, if I can see that 3 months before everybody else,
Yeah.
there's something to that. But continue on. Sorry.
For sure. No, that was my point. I mean, it's just a nice. That's kind of how film festivals operate. I mean, filmmakers, whether they're doing feature films, not fictional feature films or nonfiction documentaries. Typically, they finish the film, then they go out to the festivals and try to get showcased in a few festivals.
Yep.
Then they move on to the distribution of, finding out if they can get picked up by PBS or HBO or Netflix, or whether they're going to go into theaters if they're big enough. The Screening Room recently had. Screening Room's done really well with a couple of the Leonard Cohen documentary recently.
Oh, yeah.
And
such a cool spot there, right in the heart of Newburyport.
We love working with. You just had John Moynihan on. We love working with our two venues. It's one of the, I think John said it really well, but, we love having both of those at our disposal. And I should say, Becca and Ben, the couple who came into town to take over the Screening Room, we personally, as a festival, couldn't be, and I think a lot of locals would agree, couldn't be more thankful to them that they did that, because we were on the verge of losing the Screening Room, and having it become something else, another restaurant or whatever. And it's a little gem, and they've done a great job taking it over. And they kind of swooped in out of nowhere. They came from Woodstock, from the Hudson Valley. And showed up with a lot of film background, under their belt, and have done a great job. And it's a pleasure partnering with them.
One quick story about them, who I don't think they'll mind me telling it. They might hate me for telling it, but it's I'm going to tell it anyway. They when they first got that place, they got it like it was immediate shutdown. Like there was nothing going on. You couldn't have. It was like the hard quarantine.
They bought it right in the middle of the pandemic.
And they were like, it'll be fine. They're kind of laid back people as far as the little I know them. And I knew somebody very close to me was going around for a Newburyport fundraiser, and so many of these businesses were great. I've talked about that before. Put together gift baskets at certain places. This was a place they had literally not seen a customer go through their door. Right. Like they're hoping for the best at some point. They have visions, but I know for a fact they were not making any money off of this place. If you stood outside for a day, you'd realize that. Losing money, in fact, because I'm sure that place cost money. They were incredibly good to that person who was doing the charity and putting together gift baskets. As soon as we reopen, this, and this, we'll add this. And it just I was like, wow. I mean, it almost restores your faith in humanity. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's I just wouldn't have expected it from a place like that, who I know is closed. They just bought a closed place that they probably, who knows when they're going to be able to reopen. There were a lot of questions, right?
Well, they are great people, and they're very fun to work with. And
anyway,
why would they be mad at you for telling that story? I mean,
some people would. I don't know. I don't know them that well, so it's don't talk about my charity stuff. But in that case, I'm just going to say they were very sweet, new people to town. They had no idea who this person was that came knocking on their door, and I don't know. I always like stories like that about people.
Well, they came with a good community attitude, which they know that that they were taking over a community gem, a piece of the community that a lot of people really love, and seeing the film that we had a couple months ago be a sellout, it was just, pleasure for us to look at that room and see that it was sold out and people were enjoying themselves without having to worry about being in a movie theater again.
Yeah. That's a great partnership too, because you guys, I think about the film festival and I think about the screening room, it's they're just very Newburyport things. Like it just feels local. It feels like when you go there, it feels like everybody knows each other. Right. You know the owners, they know you. You know, I don't know. It just has that feel. Same deal with the Firehouse. You mentioned John Moynihan at the Firehouse Center for the Arts over there. A little bit of a different venue, but same deal.
They do our evening films because they're bigger, right? And
how many people can you put in there for a film?
200.
200. Wow.
Yeah, 199 I think technically.
Really?
For some reason I think it's 199 there and 99 at the screening room.
Is that right? Really?
I think so. Yeah.
Huh.
Or something.
I wonder if there's a reason for that. If there's like a safety code or something. Keep it under this number.
Right.
You know what I was thinking when you're talking about like that kind of first run for people to see shows 3 months earlier? It also must be, I don't know if you've had a chance to like sit. I'm sure you have with like a director of these things. It's the first go for them too to see how an audience reacts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why a lot of the directors will do it too. Like, do I have something? Let me just have this audience prove to me that I have something here, which I think I do.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I should have mentioned it earlier. One of the things that we pride ourselves on and have done for years is that as much as we can, we bring most of the directors to town. And film festivals often bring directors to town to speak to the audience afterward and take questions. But we have a very high percentage of acceptances of people who do come to town for the weekend. We put some of them up at the Essex Inn. If they have to travel from a further distance, then would be easy for them to just go home that night.
Yep.
Some of the filmmakers stick around all weekend. I've been running a thing on the Saturday afternoons for the last several years called the Filmmakers Roundtable, which has been a fantastic conversation between all the filmmakers who came to town, just sort of talking about the art of filmmaking and making documentaries and how do you raise money for it and how do you find your ideas. And they love comparing notes with each other because it's whether or not you have a production team making your film with you, it's kind of a solitary existence, sitting in the editing room and going out to find your sources and who you're going to shoot and all that. And then when they do get to share with an audience and with each other, they really appreciate it. So
I bet.
This year we have almost all of the feature filmmakers are going to be able to either come, or a couple of one's in California, one's overseas. A couple of them are going to stream in live after the screening, so they'll be up on the big screen with me standing in front of it, moderating a discussion with them, and the audience. They can see the audience. We have a setup that obviously came through during the pandemic that works pretty well, pretty seamlessly, which is great because if they can't be here in person, we can still have almost all of them addressing the audience. So that's the other thing you get if you buy a ticket to a show, you get to hear from the director themselves and maybe ask them a question if you were intrigued by something in the film.
Sometimes I have actually, the ones I've gone to, I have liked that part the most sometimes, even especially, or maybe not the most, who needs to rank these things, but like if you see a film that you love and you just, you have questions, like you want to know more. Like how many times do you leave a film and go, I want to know more. I wonder how they did that.
Always.
And it's like sometimes, you can sit there for just as long as the film was, just hearing the process.
Yeah,
and,
I'm guilty of that. I sometimes drag, when I'm moderating one of those things, I sometimes drag it out a little long and I start seeing people like sneaking out of the back. They wanted to stay for the whole thing, but okay, we're coming up on 45 minutes. That's enough. But we've tightened it up a lot. We tend to keep them to 20 minutes or so, which is kind of perfect. It's like stick around for a little bit. You get to hear from the director. You might ask a question. Yeah. And then you're good to go.
That's the cue when people sneak out the back for the moderator. Yo, you know what? That's my time.
Yeah, that's my cue. Yeah,
it's funny. Any big changes from obviously get the virtual thing, but is there something from say 5 years ago that you notice right now? Is it just the joy of being back in person, or is it?
Yeah, there's no. It's kind of business as usual post-pandemic,
which actually feels really good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, other than the fact that we do feel really good about the caliber of the films that we're bringing. No, the range of things that we get is kind of similar every year, from the goofy stuff to the really serious stuff and everything in between. A lot of social issue stuff. We have a shorts block this year that's a lot of fun. We're calling Wicked New England, nice. Which is 3 films made around here about 3 quirky things that, one's about the wild turkey, the wild turkey boom. And another one is called Pony Boys, which is 2 brothers from Needham, I think, who 50 years ago, more than 50 years ago, really wanted, they were kids, they wanted to go to the World's Fair in Montreal when it was in Montreal, and their parents said, we can't go. They had a pet Shetland pony, and they concocted this idea that they were going to take the pony, they were going to put a card on the pony and get to Montreal on their own.
Nice.
And it became like this big media event, and like, you know, the press would, you know, took photos, took footage of them and followed them the whole way, and they made it. So those guys are around, and somebody made a film about them, a short film. So that's part of the Wicked New England shorts block.
Don't you like when people like without, because you don't really have a Boston accent when you have to do
when
it?
you turn it
I don't
on.
really have it too. But when you say stuff like Wicked New England,
But
you
I
gotta,
grew up
you
here,
gotta
so
do
I
it
could
right.
turn it on.
Oh, so did I. Yeah, it is weird though. I don't know. People, somebody was doing a mocking of the Boston accent the other day. You're from Boston. I was like, but I've never talked like that in my life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I do know people too, though. I grew up with some people that I was like, you know, Emily, you know who you are. Very big Boston accent. So I don't know. For some people,
My wife, it's funny. My wife's from a big family from the North Shore. She doesn't have a Boston accent. The whole rest of her family does.
Really?
And I've asked her a million times. She just said, I don't know. I just decided when I was a kid that I didn't want one.
yeah. Is that a choice you make? I don't even know. Where does that come
I don't know. But anyway.
Well, anyway, the Wicked Bar. There you go.
Yeah.
The any other ones you want to mention, or should we leave the rest for?
I mean, there's so many good ones. There's a film called Musher, what you were mentioning dogs earlier.
Yeah.
That's about female women who train for sled dog racing. And so that's, you know, if you're into dogs, which
historically male dominated.
Exactly. So that's part of the story. It's about feminism and, you know, infiltrating a sport that's pretty male dominated. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also about their love and connection with the dogs. And I mean, there's so many films about like Cat Daddies. There's so many films about pets and dogs in particular.
Yeah.
And it feels like we have one every year for whatever reason. And this is one that we had this year, and it's really well done and pretty impressive and great footage. We have everybody loves the shorts blocks because they're kind of like, you know, eating candy, like, you know,
Quick fix.
exactly.
Yeah.
And whether the films are 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes at the outset, usually, you know, if you didn't love the first one, you're probably going to love the second one. So we've got 3 of those, and those are always sort of crowd pleasers. Films about the healthcare industry and how it's being done overseas, and, you know, and contrasting with the way it's being done here. We have a film that's probably going to be on in distribution soon called Free Renty, which is about a news item from Boston that some folks might have heard of, which is about an African-American woman who has been suing Harvard for years over their possession of very old photographs of her great-great-great-grandfather, who was a slave at the time.
Yeah.
And Harvard says, you know, we want to do the right thing, but however, we own these photos. And the great-great-granddaughter, who lives in Connecticut, says, actually, he's my family. Like, you shouldn't still have ownership of those photos. So that's a pretty powerful film about that episode.
Some good newspaper articles on that story. There's been a lot of coverage on that. Yeah,
for sure. We have an amazing film called Paper City, which is about this underreported incident. Everybody knows about the atomic bombs dropping in Japan, but there was also one day in 1945 when the U.S. unleashed a firestorm, a bombing raid that was not atomic, that burned down huge portions of Tokyo because the homes were either made of flimsy wood or even paper. It's called Paper City, the film. And there are 3 elderly folks from Tokyo who are still living now, who were kids then and survived, who are sort of racing the clock to have that, you know, sort of awful incident be remembered in a way that it hasn't been. So that's really well done. There's, you know, there's tons of them. We have a shorts block about the Black experience with a couple of films about a very strange modern day slavery episode, and the other film in that block is about a cultural center in Brooklyn that was created 50 years ago that nobody really remembers the name of, but that did amazing things, building a school and a magazine and a publishing house and all this different stuff. It was totally Black owned and operated.
All
just
over
go
the
through please
Yeah.
go through our program, go to our website.
Program's right here.
Yep.
This is the year's program, September 16th.
That is literally hot off the presses. We're going to start spreading those around town, so if you see one, pick it up. The screening room and the firehouse should be posting big poster versions of the program information if you want to swing by one of those places.
Cool.
And check out the descriptions of the films. Obviously,
Schedules
you can go
in
to
here. You guys do a good job.
all of it. Yeah, the program looks great. Javon Alley, who is a local designer who's been doing our programming and graphic imagery for years, does a fantastic job. Thanks, Javon. If you just go to our website, all of the films are, clearly listed there. You click through to the Eventive website, and that's where you buy tickets online if that's what you want to do.
Yep, and the social media stuff too. The kids love the social media.
Yep.
You said it's all the same handle, right?
NBPT DocuFest is we're on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, all the same.
And the kids, the documentaries are cool, as mentioned at the
That's
beginning, right?
Absolutely.
You must love getting kids in there. It's going to be a
We
good
really
time.
do.
Yeah.
We really do. And it's. We definitely skew towards a slightly older crowd, but if you go to the screening room, that's kind of who goes to the movies at the small indie theaters anyway. But depending on what we're showing, we will get some of the high school students or young folks, young families living in town or whatever, and we absolutely do love and welcome them.
One of the most wonderful times of the year for you, James Sullivan.
Oh, totally, yeah. Yep.
You've enjoyed this batch, I can tell. It was fun talking about it with you. Again, September 16th, it all kicks off. Newburyport Documentary Film Festival. Just such a Newburyport thing. I know you guys take a lot of pride in putting on a good show. It brings a lot of people into town and everything, and stressful pressure, but all that good kind of pressure.
It kind of
right?
does show off the town too, because we bring in people from out of town, and the filmmakers are from all over the globe, pretty much.
Yeah.
And they, one of the reasons why they come is, they want to be here at the festival and they want to see those audiences, but they also just want to experience Newburyport. It's a great excuse for them to come. So
it's a great city.
It becomes a lively weekend. We have stuff going on all over town, different receptions at different restaurants. So come check us out.
Always fun talking with you, man. James Sullivan. Enjoy the fall.
Thank you.
It's going to be fun. Newburyport Documentary Film Festivals begin September 16th. So there you go. It's coming quickly. Enjoy. Go get online. Get all your information. Pick up one of these programs if you can. They look all good and hot off the press. As you said, Sarah Blackstone producing today, directing and doing everything, because it's a quiet crowd here as we enter the fall. Where'd all the kids go? They all went back to school. Our summer help. Come back. We need you. Just kidding. Sarah's doing a great job. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, James Sullivan. My name is Drew Moholland, live at Drew's house, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Peace.